The children are flying kites from a rooftop in Sevilla. 11 stories below, the heroin changes hands. Nobody calls the police anymore. The police already know. This is the Polígono Sur. 3,000 families, 80% unemployment, the highest HIV rate in Western Europe. Built in 1971 as workers' paradise, became Europe's supermarket for brown powder by 1985. The architects who designed these towers never came back to see what they created. Documents in the Archivo General de la Administración in Alcalá de Henares tell a different story than the official one. Fond Civil Governor of Seville, Box 423, Expediente 78. A letter dated March 9, 1972. The city planner writes to Madrid. He needs authorization to modify the Las Letanías project. The Roma families from the demolished settlements along the Guadalquivir won't integrate with Payo workers being assigned to the same blocks. Fights every night. 2 stabbings already. His solution? Concentrate them. 3 buildings, all Roma, separate entrances. Problem solved on paper. What the letter doesn't mention, those 3 buildings became recruitment centers. Not for jobs, for something else entirely. Hey, real quick, drop a comment with your city and what you do. Seriously, helps us understand who's watching this stuff. Like if you're staying, subscribe if you want more. Okay, back to it. The old woman in apartment 7C remembers when they arrived. 1973, January. Cold for Andalusia. She was 12 years old. Her family had lived in a chabola near Triana for 3 generations. Tin roof, no running water. But it was theirs. The social workers came with promises. Modern apartment, bathroom, kitchen, heat. Her father signed papers he couldn't read. Gitano literacy rate in Sevilla province that year, 11%. The buses took them across the city to buildings still smelling of wet concrete. The apartment had everything promised. Also something not promised? Bars on the windows, installed before they arrived. The social worker explained, for the children's safety. 11 stories is dangerous. The old woman, still a child then, pressed her face between the bars and looked down. The city looked very far away. Within 6 months, half the Payo families requested transfers. The official reports cite incompatibility. The unofficial conversations in the governor's office, recorded in meeting minutes that sat classified until 2008, use different language. Hygiene problems, noise complaints, cultural differences insurmountable. The administrative solution? Stop assigning Payo families to those 3 buildings. Let them be homogeneous, easier to manage. What management meant became clear by 1978. Antonio Garcia Mendez drove a bread delivery truck. Route included the Polígono Sur. Every morning at 6:30, he parked behind Building 14, unloaded crates for the ground floor store. He noticed things. Started keeping notes in a diary found after his death in 2019, donated to the Centro de Estudios Andaluces by his daughter. Entry from April 14th, 1979. Underscore, underscore, quote, underscore, 0, underscore, underscore. Entry from September 2nd, 1979. Underscore, underscore, quote, underscore, 1, underscore, underscore. Entry from November 27th, 1979. Underscore, underscore, quote, underscore, 2, underscore, underscore. The girl with the marks had a name, Remedios. 16 and 79. Dead by 82. Hepatitis. The infection came from a shared needle in a stairwell. Her mother tried to file a complaint. Wanted to name the dealer. The Policía Nacional officer listened politely, wrote nothing down, explained that accusations without evidence were dangerous, could be considered slander. The mother understood. Never spoke the name aloud again. But the Dangan, the archives, hold what voices couldn't say. Judicial records from the Audiencia Provincial de Sevilla, case file R473/84. A prosecutor tries to build a case against a trafficking network operating in the Polígono Sur. His investigation identifies 17 dealers. 12 are residents of the 3 Roma buildings. 5 are outsiders who supply them. The chain goes higher. The prosecutor requests authorization to tap phones. Denied. Requests surveillance teams. Denied. Requests undercover placement. Denied. The case file ends with a single-line notation dated June 6, 1984. Insufficient resources. Case suspended pending further development. The prosecutor's name was Javier Montilla Santos. He transferred to Zaragoza 3 months later. In an interview given to El País in 2016, shortly before his retirement, he was asked about his time in Sevilla. He chose his words carefully. Said the obstacles to prosecution in certain neighborhoods were not always about evidence, sometimes about priorities, sometimes about arrangements that existed before he arrived and would exist after he left. He said the saddest files were the ones that closed themselves. The arrangements had history. During the Franco years, the Roma existed in a legal category somewhere between citizen and non-citizen. The Ley de Peligrosidad Social, Law of Social Dangerousness, passed in 1970. Article 6 included vagabundos y gitanos, vagrants and gypsies, as categories subject to preventive detention. No crime needed. Existence was suspicious enough. The civil guard had wide latitude. The settlements could be cleared at any time. Families moved in the night. Destinations not always recorded. When Franco died in '75, the transition government faced questions. What to do with the marginal populations? The progressive answer? Integration, housing, schools, social services. The Polígono Sur was part of that answer. Modern buildings to replace medieval hovels, uplift through architecture. But integration required 2 sides willing to integrate. The Payo neighbors who requested transfers weren't all bigots. Some genuinely tried, invited Roma children to birthday parties, shared food during festivals, helped with paperwork, then came home to find their apartments broken into. Not violent, just empty. Television gone, radio gone, jewelry gone. Filled police reports that went nowhere. The frustration turned to fear. The fear turned to resentment. The resentment turned to exodus. The Roma families remaining behind weren't all criminals. Most were bricklayers, vendors, laborers trying to survive. But the economic crisis of the late 70s hit hardest those with least cushion. Jobs vanished. Savings evaporated. Desperation opened doors that should have stayed closed. The men in black Renaults understood desperation, understood how to convert it into opportunity. Theirs, not the desperates. The cocaine arrived later. The heroin came first. Brown powder from Turkey via France. The route through Spain to Portugal, then across to Latin America, had existed since the 50s, small scale, Marseille networks. But the Portuguese Revolution of '74 disrupted everything. Borders chaos, networks fractured, new opportunities for new players. The Spanish players needed distribution points, needed neighborhoods where police presence was light, where witnesses wouldn't testify, where poverty made recruitment easy. The Polígono Sur checked every box. Documents from the Ministry of Interior, declassified in 2012 under the Historical Memory Transparency Initiative, reveal surveillance reports from 1981. Organized crime units had identified 4 major distribution nodes in Sevilla. 3 were in the Polígono Sur. The reports note recruitment patterns. Young Roma males, age 15 to 25, unemployed, family breadwinners, paid in product and cash. The cash went to families. The product went into their veins. The dependency made them reliable. Desperation plus addiction equals loyalty. The fourth distribution node was in Triana, upscale neighborhood. The dealers there were university students. Clients were professionals. Discretion guaranteed, never raided. The contrast wasn't accidental. Law enforcement protected profitable areas, sacrificed poor ones. Maria Josefa Carmona lived in Building 9. Not one of the 3 Roma buildings, but close enough to see. She worked as a cleaning woman at the Hospital Universitario Virgen de Rocío. Night shift. Walked to the bus stop every evening at 10. Walked past young men sitting on the stairs. Smelled the smoke. Saw the exchanges. Kept walking. Her grandson, Diego, interviewed for an oral history project in 2018, remembered his grandmother's rules. Don't talk to strangers. Don't pick up anything from the ground. Don't ever go into the stairwells of buildings 7, 9, or 12. If someone offers you something for free, run. Diego was 8 years old in 1986 when the needle appeared in the apartment. Not his grandmother's, his uncle's. Tío Sebastián, 32 years old. Worked construction until the building project stopped. Couldn't find work for 11 months. Started dealing to feed his own family. Started using to cope with dealing. The progression took 9 weeks. Maria Josefa tried intervention, tried family pressure, tried bribing him with promises of help finding work. Nothing worked. Addiction doesn't negotiate. She watched him dissolve, watched his weight drop, watched the marks multiply on his arms, then his hands, then his feet when the arm veins collapsed. She couldn't call police, her own son, her daughter-in-law's husband, the grandchildren's father. Calling police meant arrest. Arrest meant prison. Prison meant the children grew up fatherless. The choice between bad and worse. Sebastian died in March of 1988. Official cause, respiratory failure. Real cause, an overdose in a friend's apartment. The friend panicked, dumped the body in an alley, called anonymous tip to emergency services. By the time the ambulance arrived, Sebastian had been dead for 3 hours. Wallet missing. Shoes missing. Someone stole from a corpse. Maria Josefa never spoke about it. Diego learned the details 20 years later from a cousin. Some stories families bury. Some truths stay underground. But the underground truths have a way of surfacing. The HIV epidemic hit the Polígono Sur like a wave hitting a sandcastle. First case appeared in 1983, isolated, unexplained. Then 1985, cluster, pattern, panic. By 1987, the neighborhood had the highest infection rate in Spain. Shared needles, no prevention, no education, no clean exchange programs. The city's health department proposed a needle exchange pilot. The civil governor rejected it. Reasoning found in archived correspondence, providing clean needles would encourage drug use. Better to let the problem solve itself through fear. The problem didn't solve itself. It multiplied. Doctor. Elena Vargas worked at the health clinic established in the Polígono Sur in 1989. Too late for many, just in time for many others. She gave an interview to a medical journal in 2001, published anonymously, using only her initials. Said her first day in the clinic, she saw 42 patients. 31 tested positive. Ages range from 17 to 53. Most didn't know they were infected. Many had infected others. Wives, husbands, the children born already positive. The vertical transmission nobody wanted to discuss. She described the ethical trap. Test everyone, you find hundreds infected. Tell them, you create panic. Don't tell them, they infect others. The resources for treatment didn't exist. Antiretrovirals were experimental, expensive, inaccessible. The best she could offer was palliative care and begging patients to stop sharing needles. Most couldn't stop. Addiction trumped survival instinct. The doctor's notes, if they still exist in clinic archives, would tell stories the statistics flatten. The young mother who tested positive and asked the doctor to promise not to tell her husband because he would leave her and the children. The teenage boy who tested positive and asked the doctor if he could still play football because it was the only thing he loved. The grandmother who tested positive and didn't seem surprised, just tired, and asked how long she had before she couldn't care for her grandchildren anymore. These weren't statistics. These were people trapped in a geometry of despair. Poverty created vulnerability. Vulnerability attracted predators. Predators brought product. Product brought addiction. Addiction brought disease. Disease brought death. Death left orphans. Orphans were vulnerable. The cycle renewed. And above it all, the vertical ghetto rose. 11 stories, concrete and rebar, balconies with laundry flapping in the wind, satellite dishes pointing towards signals from somewhere else, somewhere better, somewhere that wasn't here. The architecture itself was violent. The planners called it modern, called it efficient. Concentrated services, maximized density. What they built were human filing cabinets, boxes stacked on boxes. The elevators broke and stayed broken. Water pressure failed above the 7th floor. The walls were thin enough to hear neighbors' arguments, neighbors' grief, neighbors' degradation. Privacy was theoretical. The children grew up knowing which floors to avoid, knowing which stairwells smelled like urine and which smelled like something burning that wasn't food. Knowing which apartments had men sitting outside the door, watching everyone who passed. Knowing that some apartments you entered and sometimes didn't leave, not the same way you went in. A teacher at the Colegio Público Andalucía, the elementary school serving the Polígono Sur, kept records, not official records, personal observations. A notebook found among her effects when she retired in 2003, now held by her family. She tracked her students, where they came from, where they went. Entry from 1992. Eduardo stopped coming to class. Mother says he's helping his father with work. Eduardo is 10 years old. His father's work is standing on a corner. Eduardo will be doing the same work within a year. I know this. Can't stop this. The system creates dropouts before they're old enough to understand what they're dropping out from. Entry from 1994. Lucia came to school with bruises, not from home, from other children. They call her dirty. She's Roma. They're Pio. 8 years old and already the lines are drawn. I separated them, gave them lectures about respect. Tomorrow they'll do it again. Their parents taught them well. Entry from 1997. The graduation rate for this school is 31%. 31% make it to secondary school. Of those, maybe 6% finish. The rest? Streets, families, prison. I'm not teaching children. I'm watching them disappear. The teacher's name was Carmen Ortiz Ruiz. She taught for 34 years, never gave interviews, never spoke publicly, kept her notebook locked in a drawer. Her daughter, asked why her mother stayed in such a difficult posting, said, __, quote, _7, __. The names are many. The names are lost. The names echo in archives that few people read. But some names burned bright enough to leave traces nothing could erase. 18-year-old Dolores Jimenez Fernandez, called Lola by everyone who knew her, lived in Building 7, the first of the 3 Roma buildings, 10th floor, apartment shared with her mother, 2 younger brothers, her grandmother, and an uncle who came and went. 8 people in 60 square meters. The uncle's comings and goings corresponded with cash that appeared and disappeared. Lola was smart. Teachers noticed, recommended her for a scholarship program, rare for Roma students, almost unheard of in the Polígono Sur. She could study computers, could train for office work, could leave. The scholarship required maintaining attendance and grades. Lola maintained both. For 18 months, she walked through the neighborhood to the bus stop, rode across the city to the technical school, studied, returned, studied more. Her mother was proud. Her grandmother told everyone. Lola was going to be different. Lola was going to escape. Then her younger brother, Miguel, 13 years old, got recruited. Lookout work first. Stand on the corner, watch for police, whistle warnings. 10,000 pesetas a week, more than their mother made cleaning houses. Miguel brought the money home. Their mother tried to refuse it. Miguel cried, said he just wanted to help, said it was easy work, said everyone did it. Lola tried to intervene, tried to pull Miguel away. The men who ran the corner made it clear. Miguel was useful. Miguel would continue. If Miguel stopped, there would be consequences. Family consequences. Lola understood. 14-year-old understanding that should never exist. Her escape required Miguel's safety. Miguel's safety required obedience. Obedience required silence. She kept going to school, kept studying, kept pretending the scholarship mattered while knowing it didn't matter at all. The trap was perfect. Leave and your family suffers. Stay and you're trapped forever. Choose. In May of 1998, Lola tested positive. Not HIV, pregnant. Father unknown, or at least unnamed. She was 5 months along before showing. Loose clothes, denial, fear. The scholarship required full-time attendance. Pregnancy would end that. She tried to hide it, tried to keep going. Collapsed during class. The school nurse called her mother. The mother came. The truth came out. The scholarship ended. Lola gave birth in January of '99. A daughter. Named her Esperanza, hope. The irony wasn't lost on Lola's mother, who held her granddaughter and wept. Lola never went back to school. Raised Esperanza in the same apartment. Same 60 square meters. Now, 9 people. The daughter grew up watching her mother grow old too fast. Watching hope curdle into resignation. Miguel, the brother, lasted 3 more years. Graduated from lookout to runner to dealer. His progression was textbook, predictable, inevitable. Arrested twice. Juvenile detention both times. Released, back to the corner. The third arrest came when he was 17. Adult court, adult prison. 3 years in Sevilla too. Emerged different, harder, quieter, more dangerous. Their mother died while Miguel was inside. Heart attack. 51 years old. The stress, the doctor said. The life everyone knew. Lola raised her daughter and her youngest brother while Miguel was away. Worked cleaning jobs. Worked market stalls. Worked herself hollow. Esperanza grew up, dropped out of school at 14, had her own child at 16. The cycle continued. The geometry of despair replicated itself with mathematical precision. These are the stories that don't make newspapers. These are the trajectories that statistics summarize but never capture. These are the lives that policy papers mention in abstract terms: marginalization, social exclusion, intergenerational poverty. The words flatten everything, make it distant, make it someone else's problem. But in Building 7, 10th floor, Apartment C, it was never abstract. It was daily. It was inevitable. It was life. The buildings aged badly. The concrete cracked. The water leaks spread. The electrical systems failed. Repairs came slowly or not at all. The city's maintenance budget prioritized other neighborhoods. neighborhoods with voters who voted, neighborhoods with residents who complained in Spanish crisp enough to be heard. The Polígono Sur complained differently, loudly, but ineffectively. The Residents' Association sent letters, filed petitions, organized meetings. The city officials came occasionally, promised repairs, promised investment, promised programs. The promises evaporated like water on hot pavement. An urban planner named Rafael Sanchez Torrijos conducted a study in 2004, commissioned by the Junta de Andalucía. He spent 6 months in the Polígono Sur, interviewed residents, documented conditions, produced a report 200 pages long. The executive summary stated, "Structural deterioration irreversible without massive investment. Social deterioration intertwined with physical deterioration. Poverty and architecture mutually reinforcing. Recommendation: comprehensive redevelopment or complete demolition and relocation." The report went to committee. Committee discussed it. Committee tabled it. Too expensive, too complex, too politically sensitive. The report joined other reports in archive boxes. The Polígono Sur continued deteriorating. By 2010, parts of the neighborhood resembled war zones, not metaphorically, literally. Buildings with entire facades collapsed, apartments exposed like dollhouses, families still living inside, hanging laundry on balconies with no railings, cooking in kitchens with no exterior walls. The photographer who documented this, working for El Mundo, won awards. His images circulated internationally. Europe shocked that such conditions existed within its borders, within Spain. Within a city, tourists visited to see flamenco and eat tapas. The tourists never saw the Polígono Sur, stayed in Santa Cruz, walked along the river, visited the cathedral. The taxi drivers knew not to take them through certain neighborhoods. The tour buses followed routes carefully planned to avoid certain realities. But reality doesn't disappear when you route around it. Reality accumulates, compounds, ferments. The drug trade evolved. Heroin faded. Cocaine surged. Crack appeared. Synthetic drugs arrived. Each wave brought new dealers, new addictions, new deaths. The police raided periodically, arrested dozens, seized kilos, made headlines. The trade continued. Arrested dealers were replaced within days, sometimes hours. The organization was efficient. The demand was endless. The poverty was reliable. A former dealer, interviewed anonymously for a documentary in 2015, explained the economics. Said a young man with no education, no job prospects, no connections, could make more in 1 week dealing than his mother made in 3 months cleaning. Said the choice wasn't between dealing and honest work. The choice was between dealing and no money at all. Said everyone understood the risks: prison, violence, death. But those risks were abstract. Hunger was immediate. Eviction was immediate. Shame of watching your family suffer was immediate. He said the real trap wasn't the drugs. The real trap was the math. The arithmetic of poverty always favored dealers. The police knew this. The social workers knew this. The politicians knew this. Everyone knew this. Nothing changed. Because changing it required more than programs, required more than raids, required dismantling systems that extended far beyond the Polígono Sur, required acknowledging that Spain's economic miracle, the prosperity of the 90s and 2000s, had distribution problems, required admitting that some neighborhoods were sacrificed so others could thrive, required confronting truths too expensive to speak aloud. So the Polígono Sur remained. The vertical ghetto endured. The children still flew kites from rooftops. The heroin still changed hands 11 stories below. The police still knew and still did what they had always done. Just enough to maintain appearances, never enough to change anything fundamental. The old woman in apartment 7C, now in her 60s, still lives there. Still watches from between the bars on her window. The bars are older now, rusty. The view hasn't changed. The city still looks far away. She raised her children there, buried 2 of them. Raises grandchildren now. Wonders if they'll escape. Knows they probably won't. The diary kept by Antonio Garcia Mendez, the bread delivery man, ended in 2008. His final entry, dated November 3rd, __quote_8__. He died 6 months later. Heart failure. His daughter found the diary among his effects, read it, understood for the first time what her father had witnessed, what he had carried. She donated it to researchers because, she said, someone should know. Someone should remember. The silence had lasted long enough. But the silence in the Polígono Sur continues. Different silence now. Not fear exactly. More like exhaustion. The fatigue of watching the same patterns repeat until they stop feeling like patterns and start feeling like fate. The kites still fly, red and yellow, green and blue, dancing in the wind above the rooftops. The children holding the strings don't know their metaphors, don't know that observers from outside see them and think, hope, resilience, the human spirit endures. The children know different. Know the kites are just kites. Know the rooftops are just the only open space available. Know that what looks like hope from a distance is just waiting from up close. Waiting for something to change. Waiting for someone to care. Waiting for the geometry of despair to finally solve for a different answer. The answer never comes. The equation remains unsolved. The vertical ghetto stands against the Sevilla sky, casting shadows that stretch across the city. Shadows nobody wants to enter. Shadows everyone pretends aren't there. But the shadows are there. The archives prove it. The documents don't lie. The files remember what voices couldn't say and what silence tried to bury. The shadows from Sevilla stretch east, 600 kilometers, past olive groves and dry riverbeds, and towns that emptied when the work left. The road to Madrid cuts through Spain's hollow center. The Cañada Real Galiana follows a different route, 1,000 years old. Medieval cattle path. Drover's Road, protected by royal decree since 1273. Untouchable, inalienable, forever open for the movement of livestock between summer and winter pastures. The livestock stopped moving generations ago. Something else moved in. The settlement began small, 1950s. A few families. Shacks built from scavenged materials. Nobody enforced the medieval law protecting the cattle path because nobody cared about a dirt road outside Madrid. Then the families multiplied. The shacks became houses. The houses became streets. By the 1980s, 15,000 people lived along a 14-kilometer strip that legally didn't exist. No municipal services, no street names, no addresses recognized by any government database. The Cañada Real wasn't a neighborhood, wasn't a slum exactly, was something Spain had no category for. A linear city built on land that belonged to history. A settlement in permanent temporal limbo. Not illegal enough to demolish, not legal enough to recognize. The administrative solution? Pretend it wasn't there. But 20,000 people, the population by 2010, are difficult to pretend away. Elena Ruiz Garcia moved there in 1997, not by choice. Evicted from her apartment in Vallecas, rent arrears, 3 months behind. Her husband had left. Her cleaning job paid minimum wage, 2 children to feed. The math didn't work. The landlord's patience expired. Social services offered temporary shelter. The waiting list was 11 months long. A cousin knew someone who knew someone. There was space in the Cañada. Cheap. No questions. The space was Sector 6, the deepest part. furthest from Madrid proper. Her house was cinder blocks and corrugated metal. One room, 70 square meters, no running water, electricity stolen from overhead lines. Toilet was a bucket. The cousin said it was temporary. Everyone said temporary. Elena lived there for 18 years. Her son, Javier, interviewed in 2021 for a university thesis on informal settlements, described growing up there. Said the smell hit you first. Open sewage, burning trash, something chemical he never identified. Said in winter the mud froze and you could walk. In summer, the mud liquefied and you couldn't. Said the rats were everywhere. Not scared of people. Bold. Would steal food from your hand. He said the worst part wasn't the conditions, was the invisibility. Said his teachers didn't believe his address existed. Said he couldn't get a library card because the library system required a valid postal code. The Cañada had none. Said job applications asked for residence verification. He had none. Said he was 12 years old when he understood. He lived in a place the government pretended wasn't real, which meant he wasn't real either. The invisibility had purpose. Documents from the Consejería de Vivienda, the Madrid Regional Housing Ministry, declassified partially in 2018, reveal internal discussions from 2003. A memo dated July 15th acknowledges the Cañada Real's existence, estimates population at 18,000, notes complete lack of infrastructure, project's cost of basic urbanization, 400 million euros minimum. The memo's conclusion? Politically and fiscally impossible. Recommendation: maintain status quo. Monitor for fire hazard and disease outbreak. Otherwise, strategic neglect. Strategic neglect became official policy. The settlement grew. Services didn't. The gap between need and provision widened into an abyss. Water came from illegal taps punched into municipal pipes. The pressure was sporadic, sometimes nothing for days. The residents stored water in barrels. The barrels grew algae. Children drank it anyway. Dysentery was common, chronic, endemic. The health clinic in Rivas Vacia, Madrid, the nearest municipality, tracked cases. The statistics showed spikes every summer. The doctors knew why, filed reports. Reports changed nothing. Electricity was stolen. Amateur wiring spliced into high-voltage lines. Dangerous. Deadly. A man named Francisco Moreno, called Paco, electrocuted himself in 2006, trying to redirect power to his brother's house. The current arced. Paco's heart stopped. His brother found him, still smoking. The ambulance took 40 minutes to arrive. The unpaved roads. The driver didn't know the sector. No street signs. Paco's brother stood on the main path, waving, screaming. The ambulance finally arrived. Paco was already gone. No investigation, no safety inspection, no enforcement. The illegal wiring continued. More deaths followed. Each one noted in hospital records. Each one changing nothing. The fires were worse. Corrugated metal and wood construction, propane heaters, overloaded electrical circuits. Fire spread fast. The nearest fire station was in Rivas. Response time averaged 23 minutes. The settlement had no hydrants. No water pressure for hoses. Firefighters watched structures burn, saved what they could, usually nothing. February 19th, 2011, Sector 5. A heater ignited bedding. The family sleeping woke to flames, escaped through a window. The neighbors tried to help, formed bucket chains. The water ran out. The fire spread to 6 houses before burning itself out. 12 families homeless. Total losses. Everything gone. The Red Cross arrived, provided temporary shelter, blankets, food. The regional government promised emergency housing. The promise evaporated. Within 2 weeks, the burned families were rebuilding on the same plots, using the same materials, installing the same heaters. The cycle continued. But fire wasn't the only thing burning in the Cañada. The drug trade arrived the way it always arrives, quietly, incrementally, targeting the vulnerable. Young men with no prospects, no education, no legal income. The dealers came from outside, from Madrid proper, from organizations with infrastructure, with supply chains, with protection. They needed distribution points, needed places police avoided, needed environments where witnesses stayed silent. The Cañada Real checked every requirement. Sector 6 became the primary market, the deepest sector, the poorest sector, the most invisible sector. Perfect. By 2012, the narcotics unit of the Guardia Civil had identified the Cañada as the largest retail drug market in the Madrid region. Cocaine, heroin, hashish. The report, obtained through Freedom of Information requests by El País in 2017, estimated daily transactions in the thousands, estimated annual revenue in the tens of millions, estimated that 80% of residents had no involvement but were trapped anyway. The 20% involved followed familiar patterns: lookouts, runners, street dealers, the bottom tier, the visible tier, the expendable tier. Above them, invisible, the organization, the suppliers, the distributors, the money launderers, the protected. Police raids happened periodically, large operations, dozens of officers, arrests made, product seized, headlines generated. Within days, the trade resumed. New faces on the corners, same system underneath. A Guardia Civil sergeant, speaking anonymously to journalists in 2019, explained the futility. Said arresting street dealers was like bailing water from a sinking ship. Said the problem wasn't supply, was demand. Was poverty creating customers and recruits simultaneously. Said until you fix the poverty, you couldn't fix the drugs. Said nobody wanted to hear that. Preferred simple solutions. Arrest more people, seize more product, declare victory, ignore that nothing changed. He said the real criminals, the ones making millions, never came to the Cañada, never touched product, never risked anything. Used the poor as shields, used poverty as infrastructure. When the poor got arrested, replaced them. When the poor got killed, replaced them. The supply of desperate people was unlimited. The violence was inevitable. Territorial disputes, debt collections, enforcement actions. Bodies appeared periodically, dumped in sectors deep enough that discovery took days. The investigations went nowhere. No witnesses, no cooperation, no evidence. A woman's body, unidentified, found in Sector 6 in March of 2014. Estimated age, mid-20s. Signs of trauma. Probable cause of death? Blunt force. DNA collected. Compared against missing persons databases. No match. Fingerprints checked. No match. Dental records compared. No match. The woman existed, then didn't exist. Never officially existed at all. The Jane Doe case closed after 90 days, filed as unsolved. Joined hundreds of other cases in digital archives nobody searches. The woman's grave is unmarked, her name unknown. Her death remembered only by whoever killed her. These are the Cañadas disappeared, the people who fell through cracks in reality itself, the ones who lived invisible and died invisible, and stayed invisible even in death. But some deaths couldn't stay invisible. December 8th, 2017. 4-year-old Gabriel Jimenez Torres died of pneumonia. Treatable. Preventable. His mother, Carmen, had taken him to the health clinic 3 times in the preceding week, each time told to give him fluids and rest. Antibiotics not prescribed. The clinic lacked resources for laboratory tests. The diagnosis was visual, based on symptoms alone. The symptoms were misread. Gabriel's fever spiked. His breathing deteriorated. Carmen called emergency services. The ambulance couldn't navigate the unpaved roads. Directions were impossible. No street names, no numbers. The operator asked for landmarks. Carmen said, near the burned building, near the abandoned truck, near where the dogs gather. The operator tried. The ambulance got lost. By the time they found Carmen's house, Gabriel wasn't breathing. The paramedics tried resuscitation, tried everything protocol demanded, declared him dead at the scene. Official time, 11:47 p.m. The death certificate listed cause, respiratory failure secondary to pneumonia. Didn't list contributing factors. Didn't mention the delay, the inadequate housing, the lack of healthcare access, the poverty that made preventable deaths inevitable. Carmen tried to file a complaint, wanted accountability. The hospital administration expressed condolences, explained protocols were followed, explained resources were limited, explained tragedies happen, offered grief counseling, offered nothing else.
Here are some blankets for you.
Gabriel's death made local news. Brief mention, one paragraph. Child dies in informal settlement. The story disappeared within 24 hours. The news cycle moved on. Carmen's grief didn't. She still lives in the Cañada, still in the same house where Gabriel died, still sleeps in the room where his breathing stopped. She couldn't afford to leave, couldn't afford to stay, had no choice in any direction. A social worker who visited her in 2019, documented in case notes from Servicios Sociales de Rivas, wrote, __quote_9__. The social worker's options were always limited. Could offer counseling, could offer referrals, could offer sympathy, couldn't offer housing, couldn't offer health care, couldn't offer the one thing that might have saved Gabriel, a different life in a different place. The Cañada Real's children grew up understanding impermanence, understanding that nothing was guaranteed. Not shelter, not safety, not tomorrow. The schools were distant. The nearest public school was 3 kilometers. The walk took 40 minutes. Through mud. Through sectors controlled by dealers who didn't like children witnessing. Through paths that flooded. Parents faced choice. Send children to school and risk the journey, or keep them home and risk their future. Attendance rates in the Cañada averaged 60%. Dropout rates exceeded 70%. The children who stayed in school fought battles their teachers couldn't imagine. Fought to stay clean without running water. Fought to study without electricity. Fought to concentrate while hungry. Fought to believe education mattered when their parents' education hadn't saved them from the Cañada. A teacher at CEIP Las Cigüeñas in Rivas, the school serving Cañada children, kept anonymous records. A blog, password protected, written over 5 years. Never published. Shared with a researcher after she retired in 2020. The entries document slow-motion tragedy. Entry from October 9th, 2015. Monica stopped coming. Bright girl, quick with numbers, asked smart questions. Her mother pulled her out. Needed her to watch younger siblings while mother worked. Monica is 11. Her education ended today. She'll never catch up. One more bright mind wasted. Entry from March 23rd, 2016. David fell asleep in class again. 3rd time this week. Not lazy, exhausted. Works nights with his father collecting scrap metal. Sleeps maybe 4 hours. He's 13. I can't fail him for sleeping. Can't pass him when he's learning nothing. The system has no category for his reality. Entry from November 17th, 2017. The entire back row came without breakfast. Can see it in their faces. The hunger, the fatigue. I keep crackers in my desk. Give them out quietly. Pretend it's a treat. They pretend to believe me. We all pretend the problem is solvable with crackers. The teacher's name was Rosa Martinez Delgado. She taught for 32 years, won teaching awards, never gave media interviews. Her blog entries ended abruptly in January of 2019. The final post. __quote _13 hope was the Cañada's scarcest resource. The European Union noticed eventually. Brussels bureaucrats reviewing poverty statistics. Seeing numbers from Spain that contradicted the narrative of modern European prosperity. Commissioned studies, sent inspectors, wrote reports. A European Commission report from 2016, titled Informal Settlements and Social Exclusion in EU Member States, dedicated an entire chapter to the Cañada Real, documented conditions, compared them to developing world slums, expressed concern, recommended immediate action, recommended basic infrastructure, recommended legal recognition, recommended everything except the funding to make recommendations real. The Spanish government responded with plans, always plans, task forces formed, committees established, timelines proposed. The plans described comprehensive solutions, phased integration, housing replacement, social support, beautiful plans, detailed plans, plans that required billions of euros nobody allocated. Meanwhile, the Cañada endured. The Roma families there faced double marginalization, poor among the poor, excluded among the excluded. The Payo residents often blamed them for the drug trade, for the police raids, for the negative attention. The Roma bore the blame despite most having no involvement. The dealers were diverse. The scapegoating was selective. An internal report from the Fundación Secretariado Gitano, a Roma advocacy organization, dated 2018, documented discrimination within the Cañada itself, described housing segregation, the worst sectors disproportionately Roma, described employment discrimination, Roma residents struggling to find even informal work, described violence, Roma youth targeted by both dealers recruiting and police investigating. The report quoted a Roma woman, identified only as MT, age 47. People say the Cañada is hell. For us, there's a special level. We're blamed for everything. The drugs, the crime, the poverty. We didn't create any of this. We just live here because nowhere else would take us. And now we can't leave. She was right. Leaving was impossible. The Cañada's residents were trapped by economics. Even those with jobs earned minimum wage. Rent in Madrid proper required 3 times that. Deposits required savings nobody had. Landlords required references nobody could provide. The formal housing market was closed. The informal market was where they already were. Social housing waiting lists offered theoretical escape. The lists had thousands of names. Processing time measured in years. A family registered in 2008 might receive an offer in 2020. Might. If they maintained registration. If they could be contacted. If they hadn't died waiting. Most died waiting. The elderly population in the Cañada faced particular cruelty. Pensions insufficient for relocation. Savings non-existent. Adult children unable to help because they were trapped too. They aged in houses without heat, without water, without dignity. Their deaths were quiet, often discovered days later. Bodies found by neighbors checking when nobody answered. The municipal burial program handled these cases. Paupers' graves. Minimum ceremony, maximum efficiency. The archive at the Cementerio Parque de la Paz in Rivas lists dozens from Cañada Real addresses. Names, dates, Plot numbers. Nothing else. Lives reduced to administrative entries. But the Cañada's greatest violence was yet to come. October 3rd, 2020. The electricity stopped. Not from accident, from decision. The utility company, Naturgy, cut power to sectors 5 and 6. 4,000 residents, 800 families, total blackout. The company cited illegal connections, cited safety hazards, cited unpaid bills for service that was never legal to begin with. The residents protested. The regional government negotiated. The utility refused. No power until connections were formalized. Formalization required legal addresses. Legal addresses required municipal recognition. Recognition required political will. Political will didn't exist. The blackout continued. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Winter arrived. Temperatures dropped. No heat, no light, no refrigeration, no way to charge phones. No connection to anything. Families burned furniture for warmth, burned trash, burned whatever combusted. The smoke hung over the settlement like fog. The air became toxic. Respiratory infections surged. The health clinic couldn't cope. Hospitalization numbers spiked. Deaths followed. An 8-month-old infant, Lucas Mendoza Serrano, died in December of 2020. Hypothermia. Inside his own home. In a European Union member state. In the 21st century. The parents had wrapped him in every blanket they owned, slept beside him, tried to keep him warm with body heat. Wasn't enough. The cold penetrated everything. Lucas's temperature dropped, stopped rising, stopped. The death sparked protests, demonstrations in Madrid, media attention, international embarrassment. The government promised emergency measures, promised generators, promised temporary heating. The promises came slowly, unevenly, insufficiently. The blackout lasted 16 months. Power returned in February of 2022. Partial restoration, limited hours. Better than nothing. Not much better. By then, the damage was permanent. Families had left, abandoned homes, moved to other informal settlements, to overcrowded apartments, to the street, anywhere with electricity. The population of sectors 5 and 6 dropped 40%. The houses stood empty, windows broken, doors gone, scavenged for materials. The Cañada Real began dying, not from intervention, from neglect, from cruelty, from strategic abandonment disguised as administrative necessity. A photographer named Sarah Fernandez documented the blackout, spent months in the settlement, photographed children doing homework by candlelight, photographed elderly huddled around trash fires, photographed the emptiness spreading through the sectors. Her exhibition, Apagón, The Darkness at the Edge of Madrid, opened in 2023. The images shocked viewers, shocked them into brief awareness, brief outrage, brief promises of action. The promises faded. The attention moved on. The Cañada remained in darkness, metaphorical now. The electricity was back. The hope wasn't. But the Cañada Real is only one settlement. Spain has others, smaller, more hidden, equally forgotten. The hills above Malaga, the outskirts of Granada, the industrial zones beyond Valencia. Everywhere poverty accumulates, settlements appear, invisible to tourists, invisible to prosperity, invisible to the Spain that appears in guidebooks and postcards. The European Union's late poverty statistics, published 2024, show Spain with the second highest rate of severe material deprivation in Western Europe. The numbers hide what statistics always hide: the lived reality, the daily grinding humiliation, the slow violence of systematic neglect. Archives in the Ministerio de Derechos Sociales hold reports nobody reads. Comprehensive studies of informal settlements, detailed census data, maps showing where the invisible live. The documents are public, technically, available through Freedom of Information requests. Almost nobody requests them. The information stays buried, not by conspiracy, by indifference. The researcher who does request them, who does read them, discovers patterns, discovers that informal settlements cluster around cities with the highest inequality, discovers that Roma populations are overrepresented by factors of 10, discovers that children in these settlements have mortality rates triple the national average, discovers that none of this is secret. All of it is documented. All of it is known. All of it is permitted to continue. The researcher might write another report, might present findings, might make recommendations. The report joins other reports. The findings join other findings. The recommendations join other recommendations. The archive grows. The settlements remain. Because the settlements serve a function, not acknowledged, not discussed, but real. They absorb the population that prosperity can't employ. They warehouse the poverty that growth can't eliminate. They make the problem invisible while keeping it concentrated. They are the geometry of exclusion made spatial, the arithmetic of inequality made concrete. The children in the Polígono Sur still fly kites. The families in the Cañada Real still burn trash for heat. The Roma settlements in the hills still exist without addresses. The cycle continues. The patterns replicate. The system sustains itself by sustaining them in permanent crisis. And in archives across Spain, in boxes marked with FON numbers and expediente numbers and dates, the documents wait. Letters from city planners explaining concentration strategies. Memos from ministries recommending strategic neglect. Reports from social workers documenting preventable deaths. Photographs from journalists showing conditions that shouldn't exist. All of it preserved. All of it accessible. All of it changing nothing. The old woman in the Polígono Sur, now 68, still watches from her window. The bars are rustier. Her eyes are weaker. The view remains the same. She wonders sometimes if anyone remembers the promises, the modern apartments, the integration, the uplift through architecture. She remembers. The walls remember. The archives remember. Elena Ruiz Garcia in the Cañada Real still lives in Sector 6, 27 years now, not temporary anymore, just permanent. Her children grew up there. Her grandchildren are growing up there. The dynasty of poverty continues. The inheritance passes down, not through will or testament, through inescapable circumstance. Carmen, who lost Gabriel, tends a small garden where she buried his ashes. The Cañada has no cemetery, no sacred ground. She made her own. The flowers grow poorly in contaminated soil. She waters them anyway, pulls weeds, talks to the earth, tells Gabriel about his younger sister, about the baby who never knew him, about the life that continues without him. The social worker visits monthly, files reports, documents conditions, recommends interventions, knows the recommendations will be ignored, does it anyway. Because someone must bear witness, someone must write it down, someone must remember their names. The names are many. The names are legion. The names fill archive boxes and cemetery registers and hospital records and police files. The names are Rosa and Gabriel and Lucas and Sebastian and Remedios and Lola and Dolores and Francisco and 1,000 others, 10,000 others, 100,000 others across decades. They are not statistics. They were people. They are people. They exist in present tense even when speaking of them requires past tense, because their children exist, their grandchildren exist. The cycle exists. Spain's poverty doesn't live in distant places. Lives in vertical ghettos casting shadows over tourist districts. Lives in horizontal wastelands along medieval cattle paths. Lives in hills and outskirts and zones nobody maps. Lives close enough to see, far enough to ignore. The archives hold the truth. The documents don't lie. The files contain what voices couldn't say and what silence couldn't bury. Everything is recorded. Everything is known. Everything continues anyway. In the Polígono Sur, the drug trade operates under the same sun that lights the cathedral. In the Cañada Real, the families without electricity live 30 minutes from the capital. In the Roma settlements, the children without futures grow up within sight of the prosperity that excludes them. The distance between these worlds is measured in kilometers, but felt in light years. The gap between documentation and action is measured in decades, but felt in generations. The separation between knowledge and care is measured in archive boxes stacked in climate-controlled rooms where the paper won't decay, but the promises already have. The Polígono Sur still stands. The Cañada Real still endures. The settlements still exist. The pattern replicates. The geometry remains unchanged. The archives grow thicker. The silence grows deeper. The children grow up. The cycle continues. And somewhere, in an archive box in Alcalá de Henares, a letter from 1972 waits. The city planner's solution. Concentrate them. Separate them. Problem solved. On paper. The paper survived. The solution didn't. The problem multiplied. The paper will outlast everyone. Will outlast the buildings. Will outlast the settlements themselves. When the Polígono Sur finally crumbles, when the Cañada Real finally empties, when the last informal settlement finally disappears, the documents will remain. Future researchers will find them, will read them, will understand what was known, what was documented, what was permitted anyway. Will read and wonder how a society could know so much and change so little. How documentation could exist alongside inaction. How the files could be so complete and the interventions so absent. The answer won't be in the archives. The answer lives in the gap between what is written and what is done, between what is known and what is acknowledged, between documentation and accountability. The gap is measured in lives, in childhoods, in futures. In generations lost to geometry that replicates poverty with mathematical precision. The archives remember. The walls remember. The ground remembers. The mothers remember. The children will remember. The cycle ensures memory, even as it ensures repetition. In the Polígono Sur, evening falls. The kites descend. The dealers emerge. The pattern repeats. In the Cañada Real, darkness comes. The trash fires light. The smoke rises. The pattern repeats. In settlements across Spain, the invisible remain invisible. The excluded remain excluded. The pattern repeats. The archives hold it all. The past preserved, the present documented, the future implied. Everything recorded. Nothing changed. The paper patient, the people less so.